What is up, everybody? My name is Kyle, and I am super excited to be with everyone here at another Offstreet webinar. Welcome or welcome back. Thank you so much for joining. I am joining currently from the Offstreet HQ here in Regina, Saskatchewan, where it happens to actually be snowing sideways right now, which isn't very exciting, obviously, just in time for Halloween, which is unfortunate. But as I mentioned, I'm going to be the host today, so I'm super excited for this. Today, we are going to be talking about the 20% challenge. Yeah, we're excited to dig into today's topic. It is solving the toughest campus parking scenarios, where we're going to explore parking scenarios that cause 80% of the stress. These are the edge use cases, the weird last minute or complex setups that most systems just weren't built to handle. And before we jump in, I want to hear where you guys are joining from. As I mentioned, I'm here at the Offstreet HQ, but let us know in the chat where you're tuning in from. Get a little conversation going on in the chat. And also, before we jump in, I feel like I just remembered it's Halloween tomorrow, so I want to know what the heck you guys are all dressing up as. And if you're not dressing up, what the heck are you dressing up your children as or your pets as? Let us know as well in the chat. I feel like you guys are going to get pretty creative. I can kick it off myself. Myself and my roommate are actually hosting a little Halloween shaker at our house. So we are dressing up as the security. So we're going to be checking everyone at the door, handing out wristbands, kind of having fun with that. Looks like a lot of folks joining in the chat. Looks awesome. Jeff is dressing up as Hayden from Offstreet. I like to see that. And feel free to send us pictures of what you're dressing up as after Halloween. We definitely encourage that. We want to see that. Okay, but without further ado, I am here also with two of my favorite people. It's not just going to be me here, from the Offstreet team who have seen just about every parking scenario under the sun. So first off, we have Kyle Smith, our co-founder and CTO. Kyle helped build Offstreet from the ground up, and he's constantly pushing to make the product more intuitive and more powerful. So thank you for joining us, Kyle.
Thank you, Kyle. Happy to be here.
Of course. And I also want to know, what are you dressing up for as Halloween?
I've got an easy costume this year. I threw it together last minute, but I'm going as Chef Carmy from The Bear. And as you know, if you watch The Bear on Disney Plus, he's big on Sharpies. So my goal is, and also he has tattoos. I don't have any tattoos, so tomorrow I'm gonna let the team tattoo me with a Sharpie all over my arms. I think it'd be pretty cool.
Well, I'm excited to help out with that. Okay, and we also have joining us Bree Walkeden, who is one of our account managers. She works directly with our university clients and has a front row seat to the creative and sometimes chaotic ways that schools are managing parking. Now, Bree, thank you for joining us, and please tell us, what are you dressing up for as Halloween? I know sometimes you're not a fan of it.
Hi, Kyle. So I had time while I was off camera to pull up the picture. Hayden and I from the team are in Vegas for Swapta, and there's a mandatory Halloween costume. So we went as Brennan and Dale from Step Brothers. Yes, that is all men's pants and dress shirts. And you can actually buy these vests at Old Navy. They're coming back in style. So if anybody needs a last minute costume, that could be it.
I love that costume so much. When I saw that picture, I just thought it was so perfect. And it's one of like the best movies ever. So I'm glad you did that. Okay, so let's kind of get into the more serious stuff. Let's talk about the 20%, the parking scenarios that aren't routine, predictable, or easy to template for everyone. These are the edge cases, multi-day events with different access needs, guest who needs to pick their own lot, or even a last-minute VIP request that, probably hits your inbox the night before. And the problem is that these situations are usually where most systems start to break down, the workflows are rigid, the admin side is clunky, and guests are often left very confused, which nobody wants. And that's where Offstreet comes in, and that's where we're going to dig into today. So I'm going to start off by throwing it over to Kyle here. Kyle, when we were chatting the other day, you mentioned something that really stuck with me, and you said, I'll put quotes here. Flexibility with ease. We focus on the hard stuff. Can you share a bit about what that means and how it ties into Offstreet's vision?
I totally can. And thanks, Kyle, and welcome everybody. So I'm going to take us back in time for a moment. So I went to university to study engineering, and my goal was to work on hard, complex problems because I wanted to be an innovator, to build products that haven't been built before. And when we started Offstreet, we baked that mindset into our work culture. And as a company, our goal isn't to just be another software vendor that meets the status quo. Um, our goal is to be a leader and to be an innovator and to do things that haven't been done before. And the culture that we've built with all these amazing people, all the way from engineering to customer success and sales, is a culture of innovation. And when we got into parking, we realized that there was a gap in the market in what we're calling the 20%. The campuses we were talking to had solutions in place to handle virtual permitting for most of their use cases. But there were 20% or so of use cases that required manual processes or very, very inconvenient workarounds. And we decided that we, Offstreet, would be that company to finish the job, to solve those hard use cases that were going currently left unsolved. And these use cases are causing things like administrative headaches, lost revenue, employee burnout, and stuff like that. And something that we've learned is that we can't predict the future. So rather than try and solve every difficult scenario, like every edge case, we thought, can we make our product super flexible so that it can be bent and formed into whatever you need in that moment? And it's also one thing to be flexible, but it's even harder to also to be flexible and simple. And is the product simple enough that anybody can figure it out in a very short amount of time with very minimal training? Can we handle the hard to give you the easy? And we spend a lot of time trying to figure out how we can be both flexible and easy at the same time. We're always trying to improve, and we're not afraid to start over if something we make doesn't land. And we heavily rely on the brilliance and like the expertise of you guys, our users, our partners, our customers, to show us the way. So yeah.
Yeah, I think very well put. I don't even know what I would say to that, but I think you explained it well. Culture of innovation. And I even just love the sound of it. Okay, moving over here to maybe Bree's side here. Bree, from your side, working directly with parking teams, do you see that same gap that Kyle mentioned between what traditional systems are designed for and what campuses actually need on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, 100%. I think going back to what Kyle said, when you look at like guest parking, that was a huge gap. Campuses were either sort of finagling things, it was very time intensive. They were using the current systems they had, but I don't think it was working that well. So I think Offstreet really stepped into that gap. Before that, you were either sending folks to a pay station that might be super far away and the code might have not worked, or maybe you email them a PDF or a dash pass that's really hard to track, or maybe you just don't enforce. And so lots of ways that maybe weren't great solutions. And so Offstreet, I think, has really fit that. But to Kyle's other point is that we want to innovate. But I think out of the 32 people that we now have on our team, not a single one has come from parking before. So we really do rely on clients to tell us what's working, what's not working, what they'd like to see next. And I think that's really how we've gotten to be where we are today and have all those features that our clients love.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about that constant feedback loop. Okay, so we've talked a bit about why this gap exists between what campuses need and what most systems are built for. Let's kind of shift gears here and look at some actual scenarios that come up all the time. Kyle, I'm curious, when you were building on Offstreet, were there any specific scenarios early on that made you think, okay, this has to be easier somehow?
Absolutely, Kyle. And there's a lot that we've thought this has to be easier, but also there are scenarios that made us think, well, there has to be a way because it there is no solution right now, hard or easy, and there are scenarios that are going left, kind of solved. And we've been able to, with our product, unlock scenarios and use cases for our customers that were previously they were unable to accommodate, which is really great. But specifically in the context of today's webinar, is something a large project we're kind of internally calling multi everything. We don't really have a good name for it. But if you've been an Offstreet user or knowing us for a while now, you've likely caught on to this pattern that we're building towards in our product. In its simplest form, a parking event or a parking permit is three things. There's a time, a place, and a price. Thursday, October 30th at 1 p.m. in the green lot for $10. But that simple event can quickly become very complex with the realities of the world, right? So shortly or quickly, you start to ask the questions that that simple scenario doesn't work anymore. So what if the event now spans across multiple dates and times? What if the parker wants to be able to choose from one of many available dates? What if you want to assign multiple locations to that permit or event? What if the parker, what if you want the parker to pick a list of approved locations? What if you want to price each location differently or price each date differently? Or what about offering an early bird discount so you can incentivize pre-purchasing before the event or parking session even begins? So we're currently not all the way there yet, but we are currently closer than we ever have been to being able to answer yes, and we can do it to all of those questions. But that's kind of what we're here to talk about today.
Yes, perfect setup there. A few what ifs, but let's get into some solutions here. First, we're gonna throw up a poll on the screen really quickly before getting into our first quick little demo here. We want to know currently, how are you managing parking for multi-day events? Is it, you're manually tracking each day? Are you creating multiple permit lists? Are you using general all-day permits? Whatever it is. If the option's not in there, drop it in the chat. Let us know. And we can talk about that later on too. And if you have questions, feel free to also drop those in the chat throughout, or save them and throw them in the Q&A function, and we will get to those at the end. But let's get into our first one here. I'll kind of set the scene here for you, Bree. Let's dive into it. So something we hear all the time from campuses is, you're hosting a multi-day event, could be orientation or even a conference, and some attendees need parking for just one day, others for 2 or 3, but you don't want to create multiple permit lists or do all that manual tracking for who's showing up. So how could something like that be handled in Offstreet?
Yes, great question, Kyle. So previously with our event functionality, it really worked that there was a defined start date and an end date, but there wasn't really much flexibility in between that. So oftentimes we didn't know who was coming when, for how long, did they actually need a 3-day permit? So we've come out with a new event feature in the last couple months that's really solved this. And so I always think that it's easier to see versus me to explain it. But this is a multi-day event feature. So essentially, if we have a 3-day biology conference, November 5th, 6th, and 7th, now we actually have the ability that we can allow our parkers to choose which dates they're going to be there. So maybe I'm going to be there Thursday, November 6th only, and I have that option. And so tons of different ways that we can do this, but some of the benefits that you might be seeing as a parking team is that it's more accurate and transparent billing with your either event host. So you're actually only going to be billing back to say the biology department for those guests who have been there on those days versus just thinking that they might be there all 3 days. Also, way easier to manage from a setup standpoint. So previously, we might have 3 different links. Parkers then had to register 3 different times, which isn't great for convenience or flow. And then another thing as well is that this is sort of introducing that longer term goal of how can we better manage capacities at lots. And so now we actually know, okay, is Thursday going to be a higher day than Friday and everything like that. So here's one example that we can do this. And so we could register day by day, or what we can also do is that we could set up a fourth option in our event module that would actually be the all 3 days option. So here we have November 5th to 7th. And this really just allows that for those guests that are going to be there all 3 days, it's super easy, it's quick, and then it's more or less a one and done registration.
Love it. Looks beautiful. Follow up to this, Bree. What about maybe like a multi-choice? I know we have that kind of grouped in one option there, but what about, selecting a parker, choosing multiple of those?
100%. So right now, you're going to notice that we actually can't select multiple pieces or dates from this selection or selection picker, but that's something that's been very highly requested. And so in Q1 of 2026. So hopefully that February time period, we are going to have the option to create more of like a basket approach or a multiple choice, where from maybe this list, I could actually select both the fifth and the sixth. And then so that's reducing the amount of either registrations I need to do and setup on the back end.
Saving time and setup. We love to hear it. Okay, one more quick poll here going into the next one. This is kind of around Parker's choice. So we want to know from you guys, do you allow Parkers to choose lots for their events? Maybe you do, but it's a pain to manage, or maybe you do and it works well. Let us know how you're doing that. Or maybe you're just assigning it manually. Let us know. That poll should be up on the screen for you there. Now let's look at another challenge here. So, giving Parkers a choice without giving yourself a headache. A lot of campuses want to let guests or staff pick their own parking lot, especially for large events, but the risk is obviously there's overbooking, uneven distribution, or even needing to just manually assign people to the different lots that you have on campus. So, Bree, how does Offstreet handle that kind of flexibility without turning it into a nightmare for the person that's actually, creating it behind the scenes?
Yes. So, like you saw before, where we had the multi date option, a huge benefit of Offstreet is that it's very flexible and customizable, and we can actually use that same functionality to then have different lot pickers. So, I'm going to share an example of, let's say, a basketball game. It's going to be tomorrow night on Halloween, very spooky. And so, what we can actually do is we can differentiate which lot we want the guests to park in. So, if I click here, lot 502, what I can see is that it's a 5 minute walk and $10.93. Or maybe lot 501 is a bit further, so 7 minutes, it's 885. And then lot 523, it's a bit of a further walk, but it's the cheapest option. So what we're allowing here is that we can start to have our guest or our parker make choices on their parking experience based on either distance or price in this example. And what's
Mhm.
really nice for the parking teams is that if we're looking at the back end setup, so we can see here my three options that are differentiated by both the lot as well as the price. But what we can do is we can actually set the different capacities so that, say, if lot 502 is smaller, so we can actually set that to be 20, but maybe lot 501 and 523 are larger, so we can actually increase that. Benefit of this is that we're not sending somebody to a lot that is already full. As soon as that 21st person tries to park in lot 502, that option won't be available to them, and they will be prompted to select one of the available lots. So this is just going towards that goal of being a lot more flexible, getting better capacity management, and giving a better experience to the parker.
Love it. See some reactions in the Zoom, which is awesome to see. Um, I have another little follow-up question for you here on this, Brie. I know you talked about like payments, and that changing with the choice or whatever. What if someone doesn't have the payments set up?
You bet. So this was an example
Mm.
where we do have payments
Okay.
enabled through Offstreet. And so, like we said, we can actually collect payment from the end user. But for those campuses that don't have payments enabled yet, this can still be used. And I think the benefit for this is that to your client or your hosts, is that you can actually differentiate the pricing for them on the bill back side of things as well. So maybe you
Love
want
it.
to prioritize that early registrations have a cheaper price or something like that. So yes, tons of different ways that you can use this feature, even if you don't have payments enabled.
Love it, love it, love it. Okay, let's talk about timing. Going into one last scenario here with the group. So, because not every guest needs to park for a full day, right? I think we kind of all realize that. So, maybe it's an event with scheduled arrival windows, or you want to offer early bird pricing before game day, something like that. These time-based setups tend to be really hard to manage with those legacy systems that are often on campus. So, Bree, can you walk us through how Offstreet supports kind of that short duration access and time specific parking or control?
Yes. And I think this is probably the one that I'm the most excited for. So, for any of the OG Offstreet clients, this is replacing the registration creation date before or after rules that you probably know and love from registration settings. And so, what this feature allows us to do is, in this example, this is for Emma, the Eras Tour. Say we want to encourage pre registration so that we can better know our capacities and what our lots are going to be at. We can actually now create early bird pricing using this functionality. And so, what we have in the back end here, if I switch my screen, is that we have this early bird pricing that's say $12. And if you register between October 29th and November 15th, so approximately 2 weeks before, you can access this pricing. And then what's really nice is that after November 16th, all they're going to see is that standard pricing. And so this really does allow you to show the different pricing options that you want to at the times that you also want. So something that we're really excited about, and that I think is going to unlock a lot of opportunities for clients.
So then maybe this is where my previous question, I guess, where I followed up. If someone doesn't have a payments enabled, how would they use this feature specifically then?
Yeah. So even without payments, I think this feature is really valuable. So something we see it often being used for is season tickets. So instead of having a list of 20 different dates that you want the guest to choose from, which can be overwhelming, you're scrolling. What we can actually do is set those availability windows that only, let's say, the dates that are coming up in the next 2 weeks or the next game is going to show up. And so this is hoping to make it a lot easier for your user to use, and then also, like I said, provide your team with the access for when you want to provide that registration option for your guest.
Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, we are done with the sort of demonstrations here on those quick challenges that people are facing on campus with those 20% edge use cases. But now it's time to get into the Q&A. So if anyone has questions, feel free to drop those in the Q&A function down below, and we'll make sure we can answer those. If we don't get them to them today, which I'm sure we will, we can always follow up and respond to you directly. It looks like we even already have one thrown in here from Akarsh. They're wondering, how does the Parker can edit and delete option work in a permit? We don't want them to delete the registration after the event or parking permit is completed. I'll throw that
Okay.
to either of you.
Good question. I can jump in and then Kyle, if you want to add something after, but
Sure.
great question, Akarsh. And so how this feature works is that as of right now in our events, as soon as an event starts, so say an event starts at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, as soon as that event starts, you actually can't delete your permit. And so why we've created that rule is that so that folks don't start a registration session and then think that they can get away with deleting it mid. So um, that is something that is already baked into our logic of how that works, is that you can't delete after an event's been started, to your point. But we do have some folks that don't even want the ability for their guests to either edit or delete their permits. And so what you'll see in the event setup is the option to actually toggle on and toggle off those two options. So giving your team the control for how and when and if you allow your guests to delete or edit permits.
Okay.
I also saw a question in the chat from Daniel May, said it wasn't in the Q&A feature, but I think it was kind of relevant. So Daniel said, can this tie into current inventory systems such as a garage counter? So I think they were referring to the vehicle capacity constraints on each of those dates. So Daniel, as of today, no, we cannot do that. Although that is something that we have heard there is interest in having more real-time occupancy information in Offstreet. It's something we don't do today. It's something we'd love to look at in the future. So we'd love for you to get in touch to talk a bit about that, what system you're using, and explore an integration in the future.
Thank you, Kyle, for doing that. Looks like Daniel has another question here in the Q&A as well. And he's wondering, is it possible to have a link for a department to use over and over for guest passes? Or is it a process to set up each time?
I can answer that one, Kyle.
Sure.
So I think Daniel, what you're referring to is actually how Offstreet was born, sort of created. So what we showed today was a lot of event features, but those departmental passes or permits are something that we do all the time. And so to your point, yes, you can actually create one standing link. Let's say it's going to be the School of Business. They can have that link and manage it on their own. You might choose to bill back at the end of the month for how many uses they've had, but we'd love to show you that and see how flexible that can be. But that is something that has been really popular among our campus clients.
Awesome. Mike Hamill is wondering, oh, and I love this question. Is there any chance that you'll ever think about setting up a listserv of Offstreet users for a chance that users could ask a question to customers and maybe be able to work out a solution to their questions?
Okay, good question. So I'm not super familiar with listservs. I just did a quick Google search just to make sure I hopefully understand the question. But what I think my interpretation of that is that a way two-way communication between your team and your parkers. I think that's kind of what you're going with. Um, yes, it's something that we are interested in exploring. We would like, what would be really helpful for us is to understand the types of communication that you'd like to, whether maybe it sounds like there's questions like an FAQ style questions, maybe it's directly customer support. So we'd love to learn more about that. But it's something that we have been asked about and we have heard is to offer better communication channels between parkers and parking teams. It's something it's definitely worth exploring.
Yeah. Great question here from Jennifer as well, or a couple of them. What vehicle info do you require? Can you ensure that campus members cannot purchase event/visitor?
I can handle this one. So in terms of what vehicle information do we require, at the baseline, it's typically just your license plate number. And then what you can do is add on different things if you want to collect name or phone number. But really, all guests need to do is enter a license plate and then select their date that they're coming, and they're more or less registered. When you're asking about ensuring if campus members cannot purchase event or visitor passes, this is something that I think we're working towards in a longer term, but we do have tons of ways that we can actually restrict registrations, whether that's on a per vehicle basis, or we could put certain license plates on a deny list so that they actually can't register for these. But we know that I think that maybe students or folks can get pretty creative. And so we've added a lot of different restrictions and ways that we can protect your team and ensure that guests aren't getting a hold of, or probably, sorry, these links aren't getting into the hands of folks that shouldn't have them.
Great. She's also wondering, can Offstreet be used only for visitor and events? We have a system for campus community permits. Great question.
You bet. So I can maybe pop in and Kyle, if you want to add, but we do see campuses using, we have a maybe longer term permit functionality with Offstreet. I know one of my campuses just enabled this a couple months ago. So you are able to set those and track depending on however your parking program works. So would love to chat with you more about that.
Yes, absolutely. Mike Hamill here is following up from his previous question about the lift serve or the list serve. He said, "No, I actually mean talking to other Offstreet subscribers to work out questions if needed, even though Bree is awesome at answering emails."
Awesome. Yeah, well, thank you for the follow-up there, Mike. Yeah, that's something that we see as really valuable. Case in point, if there are some members on the webinar today that have attended the Offstreet user conference in person before, and there was a lot of value that I think that they got out of that experience. And there's definitely ways that we can digitize that to provide value to people who may or maybe not be attending in-person events. So yeah, it's definitely something that we are exploring.
Absolutely. Another great question here from Akarsh. Is there any automation option in the Offstreet which can duplicate the event on its own, like a monthly/academic permit on a specific date and send a link to us, the admins, or the reporters directly?
Question. Kyle, do you want to take this one or me?
I think I understand it. So yeah, they're asking about a way to duplicate an event on like a monthly cadence, and then have that kind of new setup be sent out. I think that's my interpretation of the problem, or sorry, of the question. Um, I don't know if that is exactly doable in Offstreet today. Is that ringing a bell to you, Bree?
I'm thinking not, but I think with the flexibility and how we can now create different date intervals in events and with the availability windows, that this would be or could be something that we could solve. So would love to maybe problem solve that together and see if that
Mhm.
we can create a solution.
Mhm. Thanks for that question. Chris is wondering, how does Offshoot integrate with other systems such as AIMS, event planning features, or Park Mobile's lot occupancy data? Great.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, so short answer, we don't. And it's simply right now our integrations with third parties like Ames and Park Mobile is what we consider one way. So either information is coming in or information is leaving us. There's no like two-way communication where information is coming back and forth between our systems. So in those scenarios, when you're worried about like things like occupancy data, most of our customers who are monitoring occupancy data generally have one of these systems as their source of truth. So in the AIM scenario, that might be Offstreet permits are funneling into the AIM system, and then you're using your AIMS platform for your data and decision making purposes. In other ways, with Park Mobile, there's Park Mobile data coming into Offstreet, and maybe Offstreet is that source of truth for you. So that's really the kind of only way that you can, at the moment, get real time occupancy information, unless you have another sort of process that kind of takes information from all of them into another system. Maybe it's something you've got internally, like a large Excel spreadsheet or database that is able to make those decisions for you. So yeah.
Great question. Okay, if anyone has more questions, that's all I'm seeing in the Q&H function, but I'm gonna maybe follow up with one more question for each of you guys. Starting with maybe Bree. There's a lot of changes and enhancements that have happened throughout even just this year. What are some of your favorite new features that have been added lately?
Yeah, there has been a ton. If you get emails from Offstreet, there's been a lot of exciting ones. I think the one that I'm most excited for is automatic event reporting. So as soon as that event is done, it can actually send a report with all of the license plates and guests to that event host. And so it's taking out one step for your team to do. So that's a big one. And then there's a lot actually coming down the pipeline that I think is going to make our clients' lives a lot easier and hopefully use some automation as well. So yeah, lots happening that I'm looking forward to.
Mm, awesome. Okay, Kyle, same question for you. I know you talk or everyone talks about kind of the roadmap a lot. What are some things you're excited to be working on that are going to be adding a lot of value to the people we work with?
Yeah. So the short answer there is answering those questions about events that I talked about earlier, being able to solve more of those complex edge case scenarios is really exciting to me. What I'm most excited for is this large project we've undertaken to consolidate a lot of the features and programs within Offstreet. So if you're a Offstreet power user, you know we have three different mechanisms for creating parking permits. You can use our registration settings platform, which is very complex, very flexible. You can also use our event module if you want a more simplified experience catered to a parking event. And you could also use our permit list feature if you've got more longer term permits. So these three things are confusing, and they're confusing because when you're going to set up a new permit or a new scenario, you have to make a decision of which module you're going to use for your problem. That's annoying. And it's something that we've heard is one of the more difficult things to understand. So we're spending a lot of time to take the best parts of all these three features and get rid of the worst parts of those three features to build a kind of one solid unified parking permit engine. And it's we're making a lot of progress on that, and as you can see, like we're adding more and more stuff to the parking event module. And going forward, it'll be hopefully much simple to use, very flexible, which will reduce the amount of time that you need to train your teams on how to use Offstreet. And hopefully, it will enable you as power users to work faster and more efficiently, ultimately improving your team and your parking environment.
Awesome. How exciting. Kyle, I'll kind of let you wrap things up here then. Um, yeah, take it away.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you, Kyle, and thank you, Bree, and for everyone who's joined today. Um, at the end of the day, we know software and you know parking. And if you've got one of those 20% challenges that we didn't cover today, please let us know. Reach out to your account manager or any of us, and we'll have contact information on screen shortly here. And we'll put you in touch with our product managers and our product designers. And even if you've got some cases that are maybe in your the other like your 80% that you'd consider moving to Offstreet, we'd love to know about those too. Sometimes the benefit of solving the complex, hard use cases all the time is that the simpler uh, so the simpler ones get even simpler and even easier. And we'd love to have those use cases as well. And finally, if anything you've heard us talking about that we're working on in the future sounds like something you'd like to try out, we are always looking for feedback and we'll be happy to give you early access to features to test out before they go live to everybody. So with that, thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Kyle, for hosting. Thank you, Bree, for your insightful stuff. And thanks for everyone for joining.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great and spooky Halloween.
Woo!
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
See you.